What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the biggest questions I still have for the Scream movie after seeing that first trailer. So I think it didn't really answer anything. I was going to say maybe it answered a couple things. It didn't really answer much, but it gave us a better sense as to, obviously, what's happening in the movie. The general plot, the general idea of what's going on, but nothing too specific, which honestly, for a Scream trailer, that's exactly what it should do. So while I do think they maybe showed too many scenes of close calls / fake outs / potential actual death scenes, I do think they kept the overall plot and purpose for like why things are happening. They kept it pretty quiet, which I think was actually really, really well done. So a couple of questions I have, and these really came into my mind as I was recording the other videos, and hopefully you guys have seen all of those already. And let's go in. The first one I have, these are in no particular order, this is just the top of my head. Why is Sydney returning? So we know, I guess, in a way why Sydney's returning, or how, right? Because Dewey calls her, says there's been 3 attacks, that's happening again, like, you know, do you have a gun? Stuff like that. Now, that conversation is obviously going to be longer, I'd fully expect. I also think you need to give Sydney a better reason than to just say that. It's very clear that she's moved on again. We see, in fact, people have pointed out, she has a wedding ring on, so that rumor or leak or whatever, I won't go further into it, but the idea that she's married is pretty much 100% confirmed now. So she has a husband. She could have kids. She's not going to just leave them just because, you know, there's a couple people getting attacked, which, by the way, is it attacked or killed? Dewey said there's been 3 attacks, but that doesn't mean, you know, maybe some have lived, Tara, and maybe some have died, like characters we can talk about later. So is there a bigger reason why Sydney's coming? You know what I mean? So that's going to be something that I'm really interested in. Does Dewey tell her on the phone there, they're like, hey, here's the names, and here's how they connect, here's their bloodline? Like, what's the reason? Is one of them attached to Martha Meeks / then you would connect it to Randy? Is that a big enough reason for Sydney to come back? Obviously, you need something. Or you could say, well, is Ghostface, what's the plan for these 3 for Ghostface? Does Ghostface want Sydney? Or is it actually like a surprise? When he says, you know, hello, Sydney, it's an honor, like, does he expect her to be there? Or did he actually kind of expect her not to be there? That's actually a kind of a sub-question to this whole thing, is what is the overall idea, you know, with Sydney, with Gale, with Dewey? I would say more specifically just with Sydney, right? Does Ghostface want them? Are they just in the way? Do they know? Does Ghostface know of them, but they don't really care? Like, it's like a cool story of what's happened in the past. So that's a kind of a second question I have. Another question I have is, why is Stu's house there? Now, we've talked about, in fact, over a year ago, one of the first Scream videos I made was talking about Stu's house, when it was not actually confirmed, but more like we just kind of pieced it together that his house was going to be in it. And I talked about, you know, flashbacks, kind of starting it or ending it where it started, like all of these. I mean, there's a lot of different story elements you could use his house for, but the real question, though, is like, why, like, literally, why are they there? Or why is that house of any importance to them for this movie? Well, we know that, you know, they say it in there that they're, you know, it's attached to the killers in some way. So, and they do, and you know, Melissa Barrera's character, Sam, she does say killers, plural, as in my opinion, Billy and Stu. So that's another thing. In fact, kind of 2 sub-questions is, obviously, who the killers are, who their identity is, but also, what are the motives of killing anybody, right? And also, like, in terms of, like, the names of the killers, how do they connect as well? That, to me, if we were organizing my questions based off of, like, importance, that would be the most important. I think in a whodunit, you know, murder horror film, those are obviously the most important questions, but they really are, right? Why exactly are they going after these people? Sure, they have names maybe that attach. So, you know, you look, and these are just 2 very easy examples, right? Mindy Meeks and Chad Meeks, right? Brother and sister, probably, most definitely, I would argue, going to die. Okay, cool, like, they're dead, but why? Okay, well, they're connected to Martha, but more specifically, they're probably, you know, her daughter and son, but more specifically, it's really connecting to Randy. Not really Martha, it's really connecting to Randy from the first movie. You know what I mean? So that's a distinction I think we have to make very clear when we talk about it. It's connecting to Randy. So, but why though? And in order to answer that question, I think that has to go to the killers, right? Why would they be going after people attached to Randy? Well, they have to be attached to somebody. They either have to have a grudge or a blood relationship to Billy, to Stu, to somebody that is kind of, I guess, related. I was going to say like the original trilogy, but honestly, I'd really argue the whole point of this thing is just that first movie. That's why it's so important. That's why Stu's house is so important. You know what I mean? So, and I guess, again, going back to that, well, does Stu have anything to do with it? Maybe not him exactly, right? Because if they want to keep him dead, they can keep him dead. If they want to bring him back, fine. But does he have some sort of, well, like I don't know. I would buy the idea of Billy having a child, okay, and that was randomly conceived at the time of Scream 1 before he died. I would believe that more than I would believe, like, Stu has some sort of, offspring. But it could just be a family member. It could be his parent. Like, you know what I mean? It could just be something. But I think more than anything, like, obviously Billy was the main in Scream, and he kind of was, like, the leader. But ultimately, like, it's Stu's house. So, like, I know, we don't really know too much about, I guess we do, because we, 2 and 3 kind of filled in the gaps there too. But, like, it's not Billy's house. It's not anything directly, hugely relating to his life. I guess that's where he ended. And you can make that argument, right? That it's literally, again, ending where it all started in Scream 1, where both of these two died. They both died in the house. So you could argue that has a pretty big impact on Billy's life. Really, you can go around in circles with a lot of these things. One other question, at least the one that pops into my head, is what is Vince's last name? So this is something that really confuses me. If you look at the cast list for Scream, Vince has always been the only character, at least to my memory, that does not have a last name. You can't find it anywhere. He doesn't say, the actor who plays him does not say it. Kyle Gallner, I believe is his name, right? So, and one interesting thing that people did point out, when the trailer came out and you had all of these, actors and actresses posting it, they all had, like, kind of, one-off or one-liners in terms of, the trailer. Like, Dylan Minnette just said, like, see you there, be there day one or whatever. So you had those things. But Vince's actor, was the whole "my mom and dad are going to kill me" line that Stu said in the first one. So was that an indication that he is related to Stu? Or was it just using a, like a line from a very popular movie, from a very popular character, and just a very popular line in general? I know people would probably want to make the jump that now, he inadvertently, or maybe he did it on purpose, connected himself to Stu. I want to believe that, and I have nothing against people getting excited over, seeing that or drawing those conclusions. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I think with how secretive it's been, with even the trailer, many pointing out, like, hey, there's probably a lot of, false flags, red herrings in this trailer. Like, a lot of things probably are shown on purpose, and they're not going to end the way that they're showing it in the trailer. You know what I mean? So I do, and I agree with that. I do. So with that being said, would they let an actor for this character, would they let him say online that he's connected to, you know what I mean? Like, would that be allowed with how secretive they've kept the entire movie? So, I mean, yeah, there's leaks coming out, but and it's really only from one person who, if they really wanted to, they should just get rid of him. But, besides one person leaking substantial parts of the movie, there's nobody else that seemingly, knows all that much. So they've done an excellent job for the kind of movie this is, keeping everything silent, and yet he's going to just go out accidentally and say that he's Stu's half-brother cousin. Obviously he's younger, so he's got to be some descendant down, right? But, like, would that happen? So, that was an interesting thing that I saw that happen, online. But again, the bigger question to me is, what's his last name? And I guess if he does have importance, if his last name is important, then maybe the death scene, quote-unquote, that we see in the trailer is not actually going to be, at the end of him. I personally think it is. I would like to believe he's nothing more than just a casualty, because he goes up, Ghostface is behind him. There's a shot in the trailer where you kind of hear, like, the jab, like he gets stabbed in the back. You see him get thrown to the ground with Ghostface standing in front of the car. Now, sure, does an alarm go off? Does something trigger that Ghostface has to, like, make a run for it? And, Vince makes it. Does he go to the hospital with Tara? Like, is there ways around it? Sure. And again, if his last name is of importance, then maybe there is more to the whole thing. And so that's he very well could be a red herring in himself, where it's like he's there to just mess with you in both ways. You could think he's nothing. You could also think you could think he's so unimportant, or you could think he's too important. You know what I mean? I really actually kind of like what they're doing with that. So let me know what you guys think. Any other questions you have? I'm sure there's other questions I have as well. I just can't think of right now, but we can do more videos. Let me know what you think. Let me know future videos you want me to do. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on. I have an entire Scream playlist. I made like 70 videos on this franchise so far, so you can find that at the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.